All right, I think we've got everyone we're going to have today. So thanks for joining us. Today we will be going over knowledge management and team dynamics. So hope you're excited to get into that and start building out your knowledge base. I'm Miles Bagwell. I'm an implementation consultant here with Team Dynamics. I'll be working as always with Michelle. She'll be assisting along the way. And we're glad you guys are able to join us. So let's get started. Our agenda for today, as always, we'll start with housekeeping. Then we're going to dive into security roles for the knowledge, like that are specific for the knowledge base. We'll go into defining a knowledge entries and templates, and then we'll show how to get started creating articles as well as configuring your knowledge categories. Finally, we'll wrap up with the permissions and controlling like visibility of either specific articles or categories. And then as always, we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. Our audience today will be really anyone who is a Team Dynamics administrator, potentially the project manager, as well as anyone else who's interested in just learning more about knowledge management and Team Dynamics. So if you have specific resources who are your knowledge managers or your knowledge creators, they'll probably be getting the most benefit out of this session. Before today, as always, you should have hopefully already had your user record created and have access to all of your environments, and like you've also attended the foundation session. Since we are going to be making change, like going through the client portal and adding some content, you just want to make sure you have the right permissions. And so if you haven't gotten that set up already, you can still learn from today's session, but you won't really be able to follow along as well. And then if you happen to have maybe an existing knowledge article or just a piece of like a knowledge document, that could be useful for you as we're going along and getting set up so you have an actual example to work with. As always, these are follow along sessions. So as I'm going through some of the configuration, you can be doing the same. Make sure to utilize that Q&A section if you have questions about anything that we go through. And then if you have something more specific to your organization and you want to just shoot a chat to either Michelle or myself, yeah, use that chat functionality so you can just speak directly with us. These sessions are recorded and that link, as always, will be shared after the meeting. And then any of the links that we referenced today will be found in the readiness course category in the knowledge base. So roughly expect this one to be about an hour and a half. I think it could be less than that. It just depends on how many questions that we have. So let's keep going. After we cover today's session, you should kind of know how to do the following: identify and defining your knowledge templates, how to configure a knowledge article, how to create a knowledge category, how to set up specific security roles for knowledge management, and then also control visibility of specific articles or specific categories. So to get started, if you can go ahead and get signed in to your BE and let us know in the chat maybe when you're logged in. A lot of what I think most of what we're going to be doing today, like first we're going to be in the admin portal, but after that we'll be on the client portal when we're actually looking at the knowledge configuration. Awesome. I got a few people who are ready. That's awesome. If you do have trouble getting in, just again, yeah, use the chat, let us know. But let's keep moving along. All right. So knowledge specific security roles. The purpose of setting up specific security roles for knowledge management, kind of based on the KCS standards, like so knowledge centered service, kind of have a few different roles that people might be in. So you might have some people who are the authors or like creators of articles. But then you might have other people who only have either kind of a subset of access. So like maybe you have some people who can only create internal articles and they can modify their own, but they can't modify other people's articles. You might have someone who isn't really creating as many articles, but they're having more of the review. So they might be a reviewer. And then also someone who could actually publish the articles once they've been reviewed and approved. So even if you don't have a very formal knowledge management process, it is still a good idea to break out these roles. And then as you get started and as kind of you continue to build out your knowledge management, those roles can change, and maybe new people will take on new knowledge roles. But you probably don't want to allow just everyone to publish knowledge articles. So having some different roles set up will help you kind of have a process in place where certain people can create articles, certain people can review them, and certain people can publish them. So in order to get security roles set up, we'll be in admin. We're going to go into our client portal application. And then if we scroll down to users and roles, you'll see the security roles tab there. We can get a new role added. Just want to set the license type, and then we can apply those defaults and then adjust as needed. Let's see. Once you do kind of have the roles created, then you can hop over from security roles tab down to the users tab, find the users that you want to put in those roles, and then make sure that they have the correct client portal role based on what their knowledge permissions should be. That could also be done during the people import process if you wanted to set up kind of managing their security role that way as well. So let's jump in. I'm going to go pull up one of my demo environments. Last time I did the client portal session, we had done a Disney Plus theme, but I'm going to we're going to be in the admin portal. And then if we go down to users and roles, security roles, this is where we can get knowledge specific roles set up. So yeah, we might have a KB article creator, which could be using our technician role. We can start with the defaults and then kind of adjust as needed. So within like the permissions, if we scroll down to maybe I'm at the global level. Sorry about that. Again, and good reminder of the differentiation between global security roles and application specific roles. So make sure that you are in your client portal. Then there we're going to go to security roles and get this set up. So we'll just give it a name depending on which role we're creating. And then go down, set your license type. Typically, this would probably be a technician or elevated. It just couldn't be a client license because clients will never be able to actually create knowledge articles. But if we scroll down, we can see all of the possible permissions that we have for the knowledge base. So for an article creator, we might want to allow them to add new articles, but not be able to publish them, so that it still has to go through someone else to review and publish. So just kind of go through and see kind of which permissions make sense for the role that you're setting up. So I think we're good for the article creator. Let's see, we could save that. And we might have a separate role for KB article reviewer. Again, I'm just going to use the technician license type for my demonstration, start with the defaults, and then update them as needed. So for them, I would kind of allow them to review articles, review and approve drafts, and then also publish. And then if we didn't want some of these other permissions, we could just uncheck those. But as far as the reviewer, they would just need to at least be able to, review articles. And if they're also going to be the person publishing, also have that permission to publish articles. Let's see. I saw a question, what service in question do you have? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Gary, if you want to specify. But yeah, any questions about creating security roles? I guess, sorry, last thing to do is just to show you how to add it to an existing. So once we have those roles created, we would then want to make sure we get them assigned out. So you can go into users for all of our client user portal users. Select the user that you want to update their security role by opening their user profile, clicking on applications. I'm in my readiness client portal today. I'm going to update this user's role from a technician role to a KB article creator. But then that's also how you would update any additional roles that you get added. So that is how you would then take the security roles that you create and then apply them to users. So yeah, Gary, I think you had a question about some of the other permissions in there. So if you're asking about the other kind of permissions, service is all of the permissions we have for the service catalog, questions for all of the, if you are utilizing questions on your client portal, all of the permissions that we have there. So those are kind of all in one when it comes, because this is the security role for the applicant or for the client portal application as a whole. So that would also be you would also want to make sure that you have the correct role, like permissions for the service. So if you're going to put someone in this KB article creator and they shouldn't be able to modify the service catalog at all, you would want to uncheck those. If the only thing that they should be allowed to do is really make changes to the knowledge base, then yeah, you would just probably go through, uncheck all of these so that they're not getting any elevated access that they're not supposed to have. No problem. Good question though. Yeah, so any other questions about security roles specific to knowledge management or just the client portal in general? All right, I'm not saying anything, so we'll keep chugging along here. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about defining your base entries and template. The reason to do this is that this will become the articles that technicians and users can select when they are going to your client portal, trying to improve self-service. A lot of times, if you have common things that come up, if you have knowledge published to allow users to kind of resolve things on their own, that kind of improves your service process as a whole. And having those set up using templates will kind of give you that consistent formatting, consistent messaging across your knowledge base. This also kind of gives you a place to kind of start, and then over time you can always improve your templates, and then also just your knowledge base as a whole. But yeah, having the template will kind of ensure that you're streamlining the formatting of all of your articles, so that jumping from one article to another, it doesn't kind of look like you're looking at some completely different documentation by having it all in that same format. As far as like identifying your base entries, this would typically be done like outside of Team Dynamics. You might want to have just some conversations about kind of what the most important things to know are for your organization. So kind of if you want to think about the ITIL guiding principles, when you're kind of trying to come up with these base entries, think about focusing on value and kind of what would be most valuable to your end users. Also start where you are. So if you have an existing knowledge base, or at least knowledge documentation, maybe it's a little bit scattered around, or maybe you have it on like a shared drive. Always a good point to start where you are, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. So it's useful. You just might want to update it to be in a new format, but you already have the documentation. So make sure to use that if you've got it. Last thing to remember is to collaborate and promote visibility. Kind of like it says, like people work in silos. So you might have one person who's really good with one component of your service desk or your organization, but they're not as familiar with others. So you might want to kind of lean on them to get that information that they're most familiar with, whereas like working with other people who are more familiar with other parts of your organization will give you that best the best practice for sharing knowledge and making sure that people who know the most about the specific topics are going to be able to kind of help you create that documentation and have it available so that everyone knows where it is and how to access it. So that's kind of the idea, is that you want to collect knowledge and have it kept in one place, which will be your knowledge base on the client portal, so that if people who are less familiar with certain processes need to look it up, they kind of know exactly where to go to find that sort of documentation. So the first thing we're going to do is get a template set up. So we were in the admin portal. We're going to hop over to the client portal. And then we're going to click on the knowledge base. When you go there, you're going to see an option for templates. We can select, first we would, if we haven't already established a template category, we would need to get a category created and save that. Once we have a category, then we can actually start creating articles and putting them in those categories. So with the template, you might have already seen our kind of WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editor. You'll kind of just set up the template in there and then save that. And so let's walk through that process of getting a template set up. I'll pull up my environment. So I'm an admin. I'm going to jump to our client portal. And then if you go to the knowledge base, if you have the correct permission, you'll be able to update templates. So if you're not seeing templates, most likely you need to check your security role, make sure you have that access. But we're going to hop to templates right here. First thing we're going to want to do is create a new category if we don't have one already. So I just was looking at this a bit earlier with kind of our, based on like the KCS standards, you might have things like troubleshooting. You might have a specific template for troubleshooting. Maybe you have some for kind of other common scenarios that come up. But we'll have our first, now that we have a category created, we can actually go and start creating the actual template itself. So we're going to hop back to templates, click on that plus new template. we'll select that category. We'll give it a name. For mine, I was going to use I'll just call this our troubleshooting template. You can give it a brief description, but then you're just going to want to fill out the body based on kind of whatever the template format should be. A common one is kind of using the kind of format of issue, environment, resolution, and cause. And then I just want to put can't spell today. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm just going to put these kind of as placeholders so that when you are creating an article and you use this template, you'll kind of have that ready to go. We can get fancy with this if we'd like. So we could say that we might want this one to be a title. So we can kind of do the same for all of these ones. And then if you wanted to do more advanced editing, you can, and you're familiar with HTML and CSS, you can jump directly into the source code and then modify the HTML and CSS here. But yeah, or you can just use the editor to kind of create those styles. I'll also throw these in bold. Once you're done getting your template set up, just make sure you click save. And then that is really all it takes to get a template created. So just wanted to check any questions about getting a template created or template categories. Should hopefully be pretty straightforward. But yeah, these can be, you might have just a few different templates based on the common kind of scenarios that come up. So you might have a troubleshooting guide, like a how-to guide. Just really depends on kind of how you want things to look. I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll keep moving along here. So we have got a template created. So now we can actually look at going ahead and getting an actual article built out. Purpose of these articles is to have consistent messaging so that you're given the same kind of information to everyone. It also really helps with self-service. So if you have a lot of people submitting service requests for things that they could potentially kind of resolve themselves, by having that knowledge, like an article created for those scenarios will reduce the amount of tickets that are coming in and improve your end users' ability to kind of figure things out on their own. And it also just provides departments kind of with a good place to store their internal documentation. So we'll get into visibility in just a little bit, but yeah, we can lock down knowledge articles and categories. So you could have just internal categories that your end users don't see, but that your technicians can, so that they kind of can go to your knowledge base to reference common things that they need to there. So to actually get an article created, we're going to stay in the client portal. We'll still be underneath the knowledge base. And when we go there, we'll see a button for creating a new article. We're going to give that article a subject, and then we'll have that same kind of what you see is what you get editor, where you can use that template that we created to actually then fill out the body of the article. Just wanted to put a tip in there where kind of best practice would be to use images sporadically, or not sporadically, sparingly, so that accessibility isn't an issue, but if you are using images, make sure that you're adding alternate text. So if you do have someone who's visually impaired, they could still get some value out of whatever that image is trying to display. It is also good to give your article a summary. That summary will kind of show up when you're looking in the knowledge base as kind of just a quick one line, so you can kind of get an idea of what the contents of the article are going to be. Tagging is also important for your knowledge base. By tagging things that your end users might end up searching. So for instance, yeah, if you have some knowledge articles on setting up voicemail or phones, you can give it like a phone tag or a voicemail tag. And then that will improve the search results on the client portal if someone were to search for one of those terms. So adding tags can kind of help your end users find the most related article that they're looking for. Once an article has been created, it's not just automatically available. We do have to specify what the status of that article is. So if it's something that you're still working on, you'd probably leave it in that not submitted status until you're ready for a review. At that point, move it over to submitted. You might then have that additional resource who is in someone who is a knowledge article approver, review it and approve it when it's ready. Once it's approved, you do need to mark it as published so that it's actually visible to your end users. But then you would also have options for rejecting the article if it needs changes, or if you have articles that are out of date, you can archive them. So you retain that information, but it's not clogging up your knowledge base with outdated information. You'll also have the option to set a review date so that you can be reminded on taking a look at this article down the line. So maybe a year from now, you want to come back and review your articles a year after they've been created. You can set that review date and then create a report based off that, so that you make sure your articles aren't getting out of date. For instance, like with Team Dynamics, as we come out with new releases and things change, it's important for us to go back through and make sure we have all of our articles up to date. So that can be a useful field to set. The knowledge article will need an owner. I think by default, that will be the person who's creating the article. And then you'll also have the option on whether to notify that owner on feedback. So end users can provide feedback on articles, and if the owner of that article wants to be notified anytime feedback comes in, we'll just want to make sure that that's checked. Final thing would be to save it. So let's go through and actually get an article created. All right. So again, I'm going to be on my client portal over on the knowledge base tab right here. I don't have any articles created just yet, but I do have this option right here to get a new article created. I don't need to select a category just yet. We'll kind of come back to that in the next section. Order is going to determine where in the knowledge base this shows up on that list. So if you want things to show up in a certain order, you'll just want to make sure you get that specified. If everything has the same order, then it will be sorted alphabetically. Give it a subject. So for this demonstration, I'm going to go with too many devices activated, since I'm doing a Disney Plus theme here. But that is kind of where if you have an example that you can use today, kind of maybe take that and actually kind of use that to get an actual article created. And just put that subject line to whatever is appropriate. When we go to the body, this is where we can now pull in that template that we created. So you'll see this templates drop down right here. So if you click on that, you'll see the template that we created. And over time, if you do have multiple templates that get used and they're categorized differently, you'll see how that's the category. And this is all of the templates within that category. So by categorizing those templates, that kind of helps when you are creating new articles to be able to kind of select from there. But we can just select that one we just created. That pulls that in. Now I can just go and replace this text with whatever makes sense. So maybe I was on vacation and left my Netflix or my Disney Plus account logged in on a TV. That's kind of the issue. But yeah, I'm gonna just put in some test information here. For resolution, I'll show as far as inserting images, you can do that in the editor using this link right here or this button right here. We could either link to an image URL if it's stored on the web somewhere, or you can upload from your computer. So I had this just error screenshot. So I got that loaded. That is kind of like I mentioned earlier, if you are using images, you just want to make sure that you always have the alternate text set so that people using a screen reader or just with issues like seeing the image, like they can actually still get some content or context out of that image. So I'll just put error screenshot. But that should just really apply to whatever the image is. But then we can use that image in our article, kind of showing just some of the features of the article creator here. Again, same thing where if you do need to make kind of more advanced modifications and you want to get directly into the HTML, you can do that as well. We'll give it a brief summary. And then tags, this is kind of, again, like we mentioned, this will help articles show up based on searches. So if people are searching for a specific keyword and that this article has that tag, that will increase the ranking of the article and the search results. So having that tag, yeah, will improve your search results. So it is good to use those. So just whatever's appropriate, you can kind of create new tags on the fly or reuse existing ones. We're going to need to give it a status. Again, just depends on where we're at for the specific article. But for our example, I want to go ahead and get this one published. So I'm going to set it as approved and then mark it as published. Here we have that next review date field. So I might want to set this a year out so that next year I can come back, make sure that all the content of the article is still valid. So that's kind of what that is useful for. Then we have the owner field. Again, we'll typically default to the creator, but we could update this to a group if we'd rather have a group be the owner. And then we can choose whether or not to notify people in that group on feedback. So we're going to save that. And then now we've created our first knowledge article. Here, when from like the end user's perspective, this is kind of where that feedback would come in. They would have that option to say if this was helpful and provide a comment. So that could potentially help you improve your knowledge articles as well. And let's see. And then also just to show that short description is what will show up here. So if once your knowledge article increases in size, you've got a lot of articles built out. Having those descriptions will help people kind of pick the actual like know what the contents of that article are going to be. So it is helpful to set that description field there. Any questions so far? All right, not seeing anything. I'll also show just a couple other kind of options that you have. So if we go back to this article and edit it, we can choose to have some related articles. So if this specific article has kind of related information, you can have links directly from this article to another one. Also, a new option in our latest release is related services. So you could also have services that are related and allow people to directly request a service from this article. So those are useful to set up so that people can jump from a knowledge article and either directly request a service or view kind of related articles for additional information. Back to edit, that's also where if we needed to add any attachments. So if you wanted attachments for this article under files, you can add those there. And then we could also kind of go through revision, see how things have changed over time. So this is our current revision. If we were to make changes and publish it, we would be able to compare the differences between those versions. So you kind of have that audit trail of how the article has changed. Any questions so far? Also, if I'm moving too fast or too slow, feel free to let us know like how the pacing is going. But we'll keep moving along because I think we have a quick break here. So we got a 5-minute break. It is 1:39 here on the East Coast. So we'll return at 1:44 and pick things back up from here. All right, to kick things back off. Also appreciate the feedback on the pacing. I'll try to slow things down a little bit. Thank you for that feedback. So we'll keep moving along here. So we walked through getting an article created. Once you do have a good set of articles, it is good to have those categorized. Again, improving and promoting self-service, and also helping your customers kind of easily be able to find what they're looking for by kind of using those high-level categories to jump in and then kind of see all of the articles within those categories. Knowledge categories are also able to be used in reporting. So if you want to be able to report on your knowledge base, maybe have a breakdown by category, that is useful as well. And a major use for the category is also controlling visibility. So if you have internal documentation and you want to lock that down, not on all specific articles, but lock down the category as a whole, that's another really good use case for getting a knowledge category created. We do recommend that you have at least a handful of articles created first before you start getting categories created. Again, kind of common scenario is that clients will go through and create a lot of different categories, but then when they're actually starting to put their articles within those categories, they realize that they didn't really line up the way they were expecting them to. So by waiting until you've at least got a small, like a handful of articles first, it'll help you kind of make sure that you're setting up your categories correctly. Categories are pretty easy to get set up. We're still going to be in the client portal on that knowledge base tab. Right underneath where we saw the new article link or button, we'll have a new category button there. So we can click on that give that category a name. And then we could also give that an image or an icon and a description as well. These categories can be nested. So if you have kind of a subsection of one category, you can specify kind of which category should be like the parent of the new category that you're creating. And then same thing we had like with the knowledge articles, you'll also have the option to set the order of those categories. But if you just want them to be alphabetically sorted, you can leave that order all the same. So here, the steps for actually getting a category created. Like we said, we'll just go click that plus new category button, give it a description if you'd like, and an icon, and save that. Then we can go back through existing articles and update them and set that new category. That is done on the article by going to edit first and then to the settings tab. That's where you'll be able to specify that category. So let's walk through that. So again, on our knowledge base or on our client portal, we'll be on the knowledge base tab. And then this is where we can get a new category created. I might just call this troubleshooting. There is where we can have that nesting of categories. So if this category were to fit into an existing category, we could select that right here, specify which order we want to show this up, or we want this to show up in. Give it a brief description if we'd like. And then also have the option to select an icon. I'm not sure. We do. This is kind of just a kind of preset list of icons that are available. So just kind of if you are going to use icons, just choose the one that's most appropriate. I'm just going to select this one for now. I would say that it is useful to be consistent. So if you are going to use icons for categories, don't use it for some and not others. If you're going to have that description, kind of make sure that you're being consistent where you're not having that set on some categories, but not on others. Just from a user standpoint, that kind of improves readability and just the aesthetics of your knowledge base as well. So we have that new category created. So we can go back into that article we made, go edit that article under the settings tab. That is where we can specify which category this should be in. So by default, it's just going to be on that main page of the knowledge base, but we can update that. And so now if we go back to our knowledge base, click within that category, now that article exists within that category. And we can see that description shows up here as well. If you ever need to go back through and edit an existing category, you can just click on it, and then you'll have this pencil icon up here in the top right. That will let you edit any existing categories. Any questions about categories or getting those set up? There are, just let us know in that Q&A section. We'll be happy to kind of jump or answer any questions that you have. But let's move on to visibility permissions for articles and categories. So by setting up visibility permissions, it will let you keep all of your knowledge in one place while still kind of controlling what end users can see. And then also within specific teams, also like what internal users can see as well. The best kind of like practice would be kind of controlling visibility at the category level. that makes it easier to manage. All of the articles within that category by default will inherit that visibility permission. So if you set the categories visibility, you don't have to go through each individual article and set that visibility permission. So that's kind of our recommendation. But then you do also have the option for specific articles to control that visibility as well. In order to set that up, we're going to go to either at the article level, we're going to go to whichever specific article we want to edit the visibility of. Click on edit. There you'll see the permissions tab. By default, we're going to inherit permissions from whichever category we're in. So you can uncheck that. If this shouldn't be a public article, you can uncheck public, and then we would want to just specify whichever group should have visibility of that specific article. So visibility is based on group membership, and that could either be inclusive or exclusive. So you could say only members of this group can see this, or members of this group, everyone except members of this group can see this. So you have the option to kind of control that either way. But once you make that change, you can then select save, and then that will be updated. Did have a question that came in. Can there be more than one category per article, or do you handle cross-referencing through tags? So the article will exist in one specific category, but you have options for shortcuts. So for instance, if I were to create a new category, I'll test for right now. I could go back to that, I can go into that category, set up a new shortcut to that first article we created, and have that shortcut in a separate category as well. So you'll see like that anchor icon letting you know that this isn't like the primary location, but we have a link to that article so that it can exist in multiple places. So that is kind of how you would set that up, Deb. So its primary category is here, and then we have a link to it in that separate category. And then another question came in on how to unpublish an article. Yeah, so if you do need to unpublish an article, you can just go to edit, and then under permission, or excuse me, not under permissions, under settings, uncheck that box right there. So that will unpublish the article. So good question there. So let's see, let's jump back to our slides. So we went over controlling visibility at the article level. Kind of next up was kind of controlling visibility at the category level, which is more of our recommendation. So really the same process there, except for we're going to just go to the category that we want to control the visibility of, edit that category, go to the permissions tab, and then uncheck inherent permissions, uncheck public, and then specify which groups should either be able to access the category or not be able to access the category. So we'll walk through an example of that. First, at the article level. So if we go to the article that we have created, and then we go to edit, and then jump to the permissions tab, we can see that we're by default inheriting permissions from our category that we're in. We're also going to uncheck public so that we can set up some kind of limit who can access this. And then this is where we can be either inclusive or exclusive. So if we only want a specific group to be able to access this article, we can check that or select that first option and then add which group should be able to see this article. You'll just want to select that and click save. Now we can see that this has been locked down to, in my example, just the infrastructure team. So that's useful for controlling specific article permissions. Then we can go back through and actually, if we were to go to the category level, so if we jump into the category we want to update the permissions on, click on that pencil icon to edit. You'll also have the option to kind of the same thing we walked through, just uncheck inherent permissions, uncheck public, and then specify which group should either be able to view this article or not be able to view that article. So we'll do that and then save. And that is kind of how you control the visibility permission. A question came in, is it possible to have internal notes on a public article? Yeah, good question. Yeah, it is possible to do that. So if we were to go and see, I think that we need to first, if we hop over to the back in the admin portal, I'm in our readiness, or I'm in our client portal application, going under knowledge base. This is where we can set up article attributes. So this is where you can have some of that information that is maybe just internal only. Just like if you've seen attributes in other locations, you would just want to select which attribute type you want. So this might just be like a text box. We can set that. So this will be the attribute. We would just say if this should be internal, make sure that this client visible is not checked. But this is also, if you have maybe other kind of attributes you want to be visible, you could check that so then anyone viewing the article could see it. But by having client visible unchecked, your client users, your end users aren't going to be able to see that. So if we create that attribute, and then we go back to our client portal, knowledge base, go to this article, we can then set that internal note, that custom attribute we added. And then that will show up over here in the details. If I were an end user, since we had marked it not as client visible, this wouldn't show up. So you wouldn't see this note. So that's how you would do that, Deb. Good question though. But that could be useful for other things as well. So if you have things that you do want additional information, you want kind of visible for the article, you can add additional attributes as well. And then those are also able to be used for reporting. All right. Any questions about controlling visibility? I did see one kind of comment that came up, but yeah, it does require that groups exist. So you have to have created your groups. That is really the only way you can control visibility, outside of, yeah, also selecting whether it's public or not. Any questions about controlling visibility? All right, I think we're getting close to the end here. Oh, we'll get one more quick stretch break in. If you want to just take a second. And I think we're good to go ahead and get a quiz going up. Just make sure that we kind of covered everything and make sure that got all the information across. So we'll launch this quiz. to go through kind of our content we went through today. Michael, I see your question. I'll answer that in just 1 second. So first question though in our quiz, what is one of the key ITIL guiding principles for that, that the knowledge base provides? Next question, what is the purpose of a KB article? Next, what are all the different ways you can manage visibility of an article? And then finally, or excuse me, no, we do. And then fourth question, when should you start configuring categories? And then final question, templates can be created to provide a uniform standard for article design, true or false? So we'll give a couple minutes for you guys to respond there. And while we're doing that, Michael, I can show you if you are in the admin portal. If you're in TD admin, if you go to your applications and then go to your readiness client portal, or excuse me, your client portal, that is where you'll see that knowledge base configuration. And if you're just an application administrator, if you get into the admin portal from the client portal, you'll just be able to get right there. All right, we're about 50% participation. Hopefully we get that up a little bit higher. All right, give just another couple seconds here, 10 more seconds if we want to try to get those answers in. Awesome. All right, I think we're good to wrap that up. All right, so let's go through those questions. First, what is one of the key ITIL principles for that the knowledge base provides? Collaborating and promoting visibility. Yeah, so having all of that knowledge kind of in one specific location, people know where to go to look for that kind of information. And so that promotes the visibility by kind of having it all stored in one knowledge base. And then also that's kind of where people to know to get to, if they need to add additional kind of knowledge information, they know that's where they should add it, as opposed to having those kind of things siloed off, where maybe like one team keeps all of their kind of guides in a specific location. We can have all in one spot so that you are promoting visibility. So that is the answer to that first one. What is the purpose of an article? Consistent messaging, promoting self-service, storing internal documentation, all of those are correct. So that is kind of what having your knowledge articles is hoping to achieve, kind of all three of those. Next up, what are the different ways you can manage visibility? And that is, yeah, I think that's all of the above. Really directly controlling visibility by setting that group visibility control either directly on the article or the category, but by also kind of not having your articles published is in some way kind of managing what's visible, because you won't be able to see those articles that are unpublished. So good job, everyone. Everyone got that one right. When should you start configuring your categories? This is the one that we said kind of a tip, and then kind of what we find to be best practice would be to first get a few articles created before you start setting up your categories, so that you don't just come up with a list of 30 different categories, but then you only have 25 different articles that don't actually fit into all of those categories. So get a few articles created first, and then you'll have a better idea of what categories they fit into. And finally, everyone got this right. templates can be created and used to provide a uniform standard for your articles. Good job, everyone. All right, so kind of next steps from here. We do have some action items for you guys. First up, identifying and defining your knowledge based templates and entries with some of those base entries. Actually getting a few articles created. So try to get 5 created this week. Kind of once you have those articles created, get your categories set up. Have a discussion with your team on knowledge specific security roles. Maybe it's something that, depending on your organization and the size of your team, you might not be able to break out those security roles as much, but at least have that discussion. And if you do want to go ahead and get security roles set up specifically for knowledge management, go ahead and get those roles created and the correct people assigned to those roles. And then have some discussions on visibility permissions. So what should be visible to the public? What should be visible to authenticated users? What should be visible based on group membership? Roughly around 2 hours kind of on all these tasks. So yeah, distribute these with your team, kind of collaborate and try to get these knocked out. We will have a workshop next Thursday from 1 to 3 Eastern. So you can join us there if you have, if you end up having some questions on anything that we covered today. You also can use your implementation project to log an issue. Just go to your project, get an issue added and let us know what you're having a question about or what you're having an issue with. And then once you are able to get through those action items, make sure that you're going to your project and the readiness plan and getting those tasks updated and marking them as complete, so that we can report on that to kind of assess how far along you are in the readiness process. As always, if you're having trouble accessing your project on our solutions.team dynamics page, shoot us an email. We'll happy to kind of help get you access there. You also have the option to schedule a meeting with someone from our professional services team using this calendar link here. Only thing that we ask is that before getting a meeting set up, you log a project issue so that we kind of have an idea of what we'll be discussing and what issues you'd like to discuss. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too bad to get through. We do have time for questions or anything else you guys want to see. If there was anything we didn't cover that you want to know about, or any kind of thing related to the configuration we went through that you're curious about, just let us know. All right, kind of wait another minute before we close this out. All right, well, I think we're good. I appreciate y'all's time, everyone. Hope this was useful. Thanks again, Michelle, for assisting along the way, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.